for growth, social development, and shared regional prosperity. We begin with a few housekeeping announcements. We request all speakers to keep their videos on and keep themselves on mute till invited to speak. Participants are requested to keep videos and mics on mute. Questions, if any, can be posted on the FICCI Bike platform in the Q&A section, and we shall take that up when we come to the interactive part of the discussion. We are honored to have with us Srimati Smriti Irani, Union Cabinet Minister for Textiles and Women and Child Development. It's a privilege to have you with us, ma'am. FICCI is represented at the highest level by Dr. Sangeeta Reddy, President FICCI and JMD Apollo Hospitals, India. We would like to extend a warm welcome to Ambassador Sanjay Sudhir, Indian High Commissioner to Maldives, who has joined us today. Now we would like to introduce the speakers for today. We have an impressive array of leaders, influencers, and decision makers from across South Asia. We begin with Dr. Junaid Ahmed, India Country Director, South Asia, World Bank. Dr. Ahmed has previously served as the Chief of Staff to World Bank Group President and has held several management positions for the group in Africa, the Middle East, and South Asia. He joined the World Bank in 1991 as a young professional, and since then has led the bank's program in diverse regions, focusing on the critical development variables of urban water, sanitation, infrastructure development, and a lot more. He'll be giving us a key opening statement today to set the tone for discussion. We welcome our next eminent speaker, Sheikh Fazle Fahim, who is the president of the Federation of Bangladesh Chambers of Commerce and Industries. He is MD Obsidian Bangladesh Limited, a conglomerate with business interest in manufacturing, distribution, and EPC. Sheikh Fahim also represents Industry of Bangladesh as Vice President of CASI and SARC CCI at the multilateral level. He is an entrepreneur and community leader committed to support sustainable development. His projects in education, health, sports, and innovation has garnered nationwide recognition. Our next speaker is Ms. Bhavani Rana, the first woman president of Federation of Nepal Chambers of Commerce and Industry. She also leads several business ventures in agro-processing, hospitality, and healthcare. As an entrepreneur and a woman of substance, she's committed to socio-economic causes and also served as a president, Federation of Women Entrepreneurs Association of Nepal last year. She has received several accolades, including the National Award from the President of Nepal in 2019. From Afghanistan, we are joined by Mr. Masood Parvanfar, CEO of Afghan Chamber Federation. The vision of the newly founded ACF is to develop the Afghan economy towards self-reliance through empowering private sector to achieve national economic welfare. Next, we welcome Mr. Nishal Ferdinando, CEO of Jat Holdings Sri Lanka. Jat Holdings was ranked among the top 20 conglomerate brands in Sri Lanka recently. As CEO, Nishal brings strong leadership and business acumen and strategic direction for promoting sustainability and environmental dimensions, along with profitability for the company. As our moderator for today, it's a pleasure to welcome Ms. Indrani Bagchi, Senior Diplomatic Editor with The Times of India. She has a loyal readership for her prolific pieces analyzing global trends, especially her blog titled Globe Spotting. Indrani has been a Reuters Fellow at Oxford University and a member of the Aspen Global Leadership Network. Now I'd like to introduce President FICCI, Dr. Sangeeta Reddy, for a note of welcome and introduction to the Honorable Minister. Dr. Sangeeta Reddy is a global healthcare influencer, healthcare technocrat, social entrepreneur, and humanitarian, bringing transformative changes in healthcare. Dr. Reddy also chairs Apollo Knowledge, an education initiative focused on shaping human capital for tomorrow, besides playing an inspiring role for industry in these challenging times that coincide with her presidency of FICCI. Over to you, ma'am.
Namaste and good afternoon to all of you. Srimati Smriti Irani, Union Cabinet Minister for Textiles, Women and Child Development, Mr. Junaid Ahmed, Sheikh Fazle Fahim, Ms. Bhavani Rana, Ms. Masood Parvanfar, Dr. Masood Parvanfar, Mr. Nishal Ferdinando, Ms. Indrani Bagchi, His Excellency, Mr. Sanjay Sudhir. The multiple participants in this tremendous conference diplomats from across the world who have also logged in, ladies and gentlemen, as well as members of the press. Once again, a namaste and a very, very warm welcome to all of you. I'm delighted to welcome you all virtually to the second session of Day 3 of South Asia session on Reimagining Neighbourhood Economic Integration. It is a distinct honor for us to have with us Srimati Smriti Ji, our Honorable Minister, to deliver this special keynote address. She's inspirational, she's thought-provoking, she is action-oriented, she's a strong proponent in the rights of women, but most importantly, she leads from the front and believes in impact. Smriti Ji, it is indeed a great pleasure and a privilege to have you with us. I also formally welcome eminent speakers from the region. It's a pleasure to have had you all at the inaugural edition of FICCI Leads 2020. On day one, we opened up with 5 ambassadors from different countries, debating the reshaped world and talking about leads, which is leadership, which talks about excellence in everything that we do, which speaks about inclusivity, development, sustainability, and the new world order, really reimagining the world. This 4-day global leadership initiative from FICCI to evolve a shared vision for global economic prosperity, ensuring inclusivity, is very much in line with the vision of our Honorable Prime Minister, who calls for an Atmanirbhar, or a strong and self-reliant India, but also inspires us to ensure that India takes its place in the new world order in a manner which is inclusive, thoughtful, and reflective of better humankind. The program being organized on FICCI's in-house virtual platform from October 12th to 15th features 11 power-packed regional spotlights from east to west, curated in a time zone-friendly series of sessions. Truly, all of us have been through tremendous times. The unprecedented pandemic has had harmful ramifications on the world and created an indelible impact on political and societal living. The need of the hour for us now, while we continue to tackle this pandemic, keep our population safe, find ways to reinvigorate our economies, we now look to individual and collective measures in strengthening national welfare, in supporting industry and MSME, in reimagining our strength, and definitely leveraging and creating regional supply chains as the geopolitical shifts have disrupted global supply chains. It's time for us as neighbors to come together and think what more we can do together. The pandemic has brought to the fore the inadequacies in healthcare, and I believe every country has made their mark in their methodology of handling the crisis. I'm proud to say that India has done tremendous steps, whether it's in the sphere of protecting lives, the early lockdown, the fact that when we started this pandemic, when the pandemic hit us, India produced less than 10,000 PPEs per day. Today, we produce more than 4.5 lakh PPEs per day. And I'm especially happy that someone who has been a motivational and a driving force in this invigoration of this movement is with us. And that's why I specifically mentioned this response. Besides that, healthcare providers of the public and private have found ways to work together. Digital technologies have been used, from telemedicine to methodologies for social distancing, from tracing, and then going beyond. The pharmaceutical industry has stood up to truly take its place and India's place as the pharmacy for the world. As a medical professional myself, leading a team of committed doctors and healthcare workers, improvement of access to health facilities and care and societal protection for both patients and their families and frontline workers is a major impetus and a major need for the whole world. I want to quote what the editor of the Lancet, Paul Hudson, said to us. And he said that we are not actually in a pandemic, we are facing a tridemic. And this tridemic is number one of the epidemic of COVID. This is exasperated and made worse by the underlying epidemic of non-communicable disease, because people with comorbidities have worse outcomes than the healthy. And this has been made more complicated and difficult by the infodemic, which is raging around us. And we must tackle all three effectively and positively. The countries of South Asia, will need to be better prepared and equipped to handle such health crises. And having had hospitals ourselves in Bangladesh and Sri Lanka, worked in Nepal, looking at things to do in Myanmar, I strongly believe that as neighbors, we can help and support each other in this healthcare crisis. And decision makers, policy shapers, civilians will all come together, not just to deal with future pandemics, but to create a healthier and a happier population. India has a vision of a stable, integrated, prosperous region, regional economics, growth and social development through a calibrated and systematic strategy of engagement with neighbors to create successful partnerships. FICCI values our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji's vision of neighborhood first policy and acknowledges the importance of the South Asia region. The world is grappling with this pandemic and the ensuing socio-economic constraints. And as the National Industry Chamber, FICCI acknowledges that it's very important for us to find ways to work with our neighbors, rekindle our shared values and complementarities to enhance economic integration. I would conclude by saying that we look forward to hearing your perspectives on the role of India, our partners in South Asia, in reimagining regional cooperations and economic integration, and for creating fresh South Asia value chains and tapping deeply into existing networks while respecting the principles of inclusion, diversity, sustainability to bring and achieve a strong regional growth. FICCI South Asia has a connect with multiple partners, and as we go on to discussions today, we look forward to highlighting and showcasing the strengths of each other's countries to one another, using business as a methodology for regional cooperation. It is our extreme pleasure to have with us today a woman whom we all admire, Srimati Smriti Irani, Union Minister for Textiles and Women in Development. She previously served as the Human Resources Development Ministry and the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. She's India's youngest minister and the first woman to hold the office as HRD Minister and Minister of Textiles. The World Economic Forum named her as a young global leader from India in 2015, and she was elected as a member representing the Asia Pacific to the task force in the 126th Assembly of the IPU. With much anticipation and genuine thanks, I would now like to invite Srimati Smriti ji to deliver her special keynote address. Thank you all very much. Enjoy the conference and the deliberations. Namaste.
Excellencies, esteemed panelists, ladies and gentlemen. In an unprecedented time, we come together to reimagine our world and prospects of economic growth on the pillars of open economies, self-reliance, economic resilience, and multilateralism. I am delighted to be a part of a global thought leadership initiative of FICCI Leads 2020, which provides a platform for global leaders to help create an inclusive, sustainable, and human-centric development, especially in the post-COVID world. In South Asia, the interaction of diverse civilizations across millennia has brought to the surface certain fundamental features of each nation, which, while being rooted in our specific linguistic, religious, and cultural form, are universal. South Asian countries celebrate not only shared identities, but also have a strong sense of interdependence. Today's session, I believe, is to discuss the contours of regional cooperation and neighborhood economic integration amongst our South Asian neighbors. The region has immense economic and political cooperation and promise, which is imbibed in the pan-South Asian identity. As we know that economic integration gives way to economic growth, and economic integration in South Asia can not only help to sustain our economic agendas, but also lead to enhanced trade due to comparative advantages, free trade regime, investment opportunities due to availability of a large market, availability of cheap capital, regional supply chains, It can also lead to manufacturing of cheaper consumer goods, low food prices, and created much needed jobs. India has the vision of a stable, integrated, prosperous region through neighborhood first policy and by catalyzing the vision for regional economic growth and social development. Ladies and gentlemen, as I address you today as the Minister for Women and Child Welfare, I must add that any development story is incomplete without the contribution of women. Women tend to strive for holistic and self-reflective approach, which makes them not only great leaders, but also decision makers to reckon with. We cannot deny the fact that women leaders have set a benchmark in terms of global governance and have had an exemplary role in the time of crisis. In the case of South Asia, which has been the land of women empowerment, with women leaders at the helm of governments, political and economic institutions. Leaders and path-breaking thought provokers, including women ministers currently serving in India, with the likes of Honorable Finance Minister Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman and the late Foreign Minister Srimati Sushma Swaraj, leaders who lead from the front not only in nations like Bangladesh, Nepal, Maldives, and many more societal leaders who have been an inspiration to the world and countless aspiring young women. I applaud specially Vicky for curating the Empowering the Greater 50% initiative for creating a suitable ecosystem for women leaders and entrepreneurs. We have seen how the global pandemic has created an indelible impact on society where women seem to be the worst affected. When we talk about gender equality, it is not only the rights of women, but also equal opportunities and representations across the board. It is also essential to ensure women's economic advancement and increase in the productivities of their respective countries, helping them to create new entrepreneurial ventures and gain access to new income generating pursuits. I've had the privilege of addressing the second edition of South Asia Safety Summit in 2019, wherein we all came together to pledge to ensure safety of women and children within their homes and create safe neighborhoods to protect women and children against violence and abuse. The then summit had representations from CSOs, NGOs, organizations from across India, Nepal, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and Afghanistan. In India, we have undertaken many measures to ensure the safety and security of our women and children. I would like to name a few. We have in the past 1 year managed to establish close to in every district a one-stop crisis center where women can receive psychological, medical, legal, and police support in times of crisis. In the pandemic, the government of India, in collaboration with state governments, has managed to provide relief, rescue, and rehabilitation to over 90,000 women. Additionally, the government of India, through women helplines across the country, in the past 1 year, has managed to provide support and rescue over 50 lakh women. I must here add that we are strengthening our judicial processes to help women in need, and that is why we are setting up 1,023 fast-track courts across the country to ensure speedy justice to women in need of protection of law. I would also say here that when you imagine the India story, you cannot imagine it without the economic empowerment of Indian women. Today, as we speak, and I am blessed to have been introduced by one of the economic leaders of India, Dr. Sangeeta Reddy, I must here say that women also in India will be the flag bearers of economic resurgence. We proudly in India note that 150 million Indian women had access to collateral-free lending under an ambitious program enunciated by the Honorable Prime Minister of India, namely the Mudra Yojana. Additionally, the PPE story that Dr. Reddy was extremely proud to flag in her introductory remarks is a story of India's resilience in the times of crisis. As the esteemed panelists well know, that India did not produce a single PPE coverall till the month of April. Between the month of April to this day, India has seen the emergence of over 1,100 companies specific to the manufacturing of PPE coveralls. Today, the expected annual turnaround for these companies is close to an estimated $1 billion. And as we speak today, we celebrate the employment prospects that have been generated for over 600,000 Indian women only in the segment of PPE manufacturing. Today, as Dr. Reddy rightfully said, we look at not only new engines of economic growth, but also its societal impact. And to that, I must add that the ambitious healthcare project of the Government of India, namely Ayushman Bharat, envisages an extension of financial and medical support to over 100 million Indian families. As I come to a conclusion, I must here pay homage and give grateful thanks to the 2.5 million Indian women who were at the front line of tackling the virus, be it the Anganwadi Didis or the Asha workers. We were blessed to have their support in door-to-door surveillance of the virus and in aiding medical support to every citizen in our country. As I conclude, I would like to reiterate that India and our partners in South Asia must reimagine regional economic cooperation and integration by taking leadership positions to create fresh South Asian value chains and tap deeply into existing value networks. The focus should be creating a calibrated and systemic strategy of engagement with neighbors to create successful partnerships and value chains. Given that it's FICCI that leads this initiative, I am assured of success of the same. My best wishes for the sessions that will ensue. Jai Hind.
Thank you, ma'am, for your kind and very thought-provoking words. It was wonderful to hear from you, and I want to thank you for gracing the occasion. You've truly set the pace and the tenor for the discussions which will ensue, and we look forward to staying in touch with you and your continued support on all the initiatives as not FICCI, but India leads. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. We now invite Ambassador Sanjay Sudhir, High Commissioner of India to Maldives, who has been in charge of this mission since March 2019. Ambassador Sudhir has served in key positions, including a tenure as Consul General of India in Sydney, Counselor at the Permanent Mission of India to the WTO, and as Head of the Economic and Commercial Wing at the Indian High Commission, Colombo. Sir, may we have your remarks, please?
Thank you very much, and I'm indeed honored to participate in FICCI Leads 2020. I think economic integration supports both social understanding as well as political understanding. Although there is trade architecture of SAFTA and FTAs with some countries, intra-regional trade is far from impressive, and I think you all know the figures, so I don't need to repeat that. But let me specifically look at India-Maldives trade. India happens to be the 4th largest trading partner. This is not a situation which is in sync with India first policy of Maldives or the neighborhood first policy of India. I think we need to harness geographical proximity and the diverse product range of items which India can export. So the GDP of Maldives is about $5 billion. Even if it integrates well with the $30 billion economy of Kerala, which is just a few hundred kilometers north, the trade figures would be much, much better. To correct this anomaly, we have taken a few steps in the last couple of years. One is the direct cargo ferry service. So during Prime Minister Modi's state visit to Maldives in June last year, he made an announcement that we'll soon start a direct cargo ferry service. So in September, on September 26, actually just about 2-3 weeks back, ferry service was started by Shipping Corporation of India, connecting Tuticorin, Kochi, Kuludufushi in North Maldives and Male. So for the moment, it's a fortnightly service. And so far, much of Indian exports were actually routed to Colombo, Dubai, and Singapore. Certainly, this leads to a lot of time and a lot of costs. I must acknowledge that FICCI really helped us in this endeavor by doing a very robust market survey. And I think that was convincing enough for Shipping Corporation of India and other stakeholders involved that this is going to be a very viable initiative. And I must again thank FICCI. And the advantages of this ferry service have already started being felt. So for a city like Kuludufushi in North Maldives, which is not very well connected, it's not on any major shipping route. Things are already very cheap. So cement bags, for instance, which used to be Maldivian rupiah 130 earlier, is now just about 90. As far as Maldivian exports are concerned, of course, there are limitations. Maldives exports mainly fish, but through ports like Kochi and Tuticorin, they can have much, much better access to European markets. We are also carrying out a market survey on our part to explore export options to India for the unique fish products of Maldives, and also to see how best the ferry service and also Indian ports can be exploited for them to reach out to European markets, to Japanese markets. Dr. Sangeeta Reddy mentioned about Atmanirbhar Bharat. I think the concept of Atmanirbhar Bharat has to be also looked at in a regional context. We can promote economic self-reliance for our neighbors also, for mutual benefit. And in Maldives, actually, that's what we are trying to promote and trying to work on with the support of FICCI and other business chambers. I suggest that our businesses must look at business opportunities more closely in other South Asian countries. I think there is a gap somewhere there. So with this audience, I think I must share this thought. In the services sector, for instance, in Maldives, India is a major factor in the health sector. But still, there is tremendous scope to expand our participation. There is a big new hospital coming up in the southernmost city of Addu, and they're still looking for partners. Who can be a better partners than our medical giants, including Apollo? We should take advantage of this situation. In the tourism sector, well, there are about 160 resorts, but there are only about 2-3 Indian companies which have resorts, including 2 by Taj, which was started long back. The thing is, if top hospitality chains can be here and can do well, I'm sure there's a lot of scope for the expanding Indian hospitality market in Maldives. Maldives also, has a lot of stranded resort projects which are going cheap, and for which government has been able to create some kind of incentive mechanism. So I would encourage through FICCI, if our entrepreneurs in the hospitality sector could look at such opportunities. Another sector of promising opportunities is the housing sector. None of the big Indian names are present here, barring Tata Housing, who are present here in a very limited way. Our housing giants, I think, should also look at Maldives. I encourage our business chambers to mount delegations, either from headquarters in Delhi or from the regional offices. We at the High Commission will be more than happy to coordinate meetings and seminars. We'll try our best to open doors and usher you in. You're most welcome. And as you all know, Maldives offers more than business. With its unique turquoise waters, unbelievable marine life, and what they say, the sunny side of life. So you're all most welcome here.
Thank you, Dr. Singh. Sushma, back to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure for FICCI to actually work very closely and, especially the feasibility study. And we hope to take this forward with several more initiatives. Thank you for joining us today, sir. Now I hand over to Ms. Indrani Bagchi to conduct the discussions for today. Ms. Bagchi, over to you.
Thank you, Sushma, and good afternoon, Ms. Reddy, and good afternoon to all other speakers. Reimagining economic integration in South Asia, in our region, is a topic we should revisit every year for no other reason than to just focus attention on areas where these countries, all of us, should be able to work together. I know that FICCI a couple of years ago released a report by the World Bank, which was again on economic integration in this region. Very well researched report, and highlighted the advantages for all the countries which took advantage of this integration or of economic communication or economic cooperation. The thing is, as Sanjay said very clearly, economic cooperation really piggybacks on political understanding and political harmony. I would say that this the government has worked very hard to put the neighborhood first policies in place. Yes, there have been hiccups, and yes, there have been troubles. There will always be hiccups and troubles, and we should not expect that this would be an easy or a smooth ride. But there is willingness and there is political will. And when there is political will, I think we will be able to see results. I always say that Bangladesh is our poster child in terms of just exhibiting the potential of what we can achieve, both in a bilateral context and in a regional context. The BBIN network of connectivity is a project that really should be fast-tracked, if you ask me. We should be putting not just roads and rail lines together to connect Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, and India and Myanmar when we can, and Sri Lanka when we can, across the waters. But we should also be looking at integrating our energy grids, integrating our power grids. We've taken the first steps with Bangladesh with very happy results on both ends. And I think this is certainly the way to go. What we should look at in India, I think we should look at when we craft our own economic policies and craft our own, say, commodities policies, we need to take what I call a national treatment for our neighbors. For instance, we should not have had to scramble to supply onions to Bangladesh the other day. We should not have had to do that. If we work to integrating Bangladesh's demands or Nepal's demands, because as India, as the largest economy in this region, we should be known as reliable suppliers, and that principle should govern a lot of our economic and political ideas and policies. Where our neighbors are concerned, I think the idea ought to be to log it to the potential of India, its resources, its market, its talent, and its skill base for your benefit. Because if when our neighbors benefit, we benefit. And today, I do want to put on record, I want to put on record my compliments to Bangladesh for achieving a fairly important milestone in overtaking India in per capita GDP. I think it's a laudable achievement, and should be something that all our neighbors should be attempting, because in your security and in your prosperity lies India's prosperity. With those words, I would invite Junaid Ahmed of the World Bank to make his remarks. I will give about 7 to 10 minutes for opening remarks, following which we will take questions and we will start a discussion. Junaid, Mr. Ahmed, over to you.
Indrani, thank you. I have to say, for some reason, my internet connect is really, really bad. So some have to let me know if you're not hearing me. And I've taken my video off to give it a little bit of more of bandwidth into the presentation. So my apologies. I don't know whether it's something happening in the context here. But Indrani, please alert me if you can't hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, but if it great, but if it gets bad, just cut me off and go off to the other speakers, please. I don't want this to stop us. Well, thank you very much, and I really congratulate Vicky for putting together what I think is a incredible conversation. And reimagining South Asia, I think, is a very, very important topic. You know, I'm reminded a couple of decades back when I first started working in the World Bank. I had the fortune to be based in South Africa and to work directly with President Mandela. And I remember one very interesting event when President Mandela brought some of the big business houses together in a meeting. And this was right after he became president in the new South Africa, in the democratic South Africa. And in bringing everyone together, he asked the business houses, and all these business houses were not surprisingly, from the white community. This was from the apartheid days. They were the big houses. And he said to them, reach out to the surrounding countries, invest in the surrounding countries, build and support the capacity of businesses in the surrounding countries. And remember that when you go as a private house into Zimbabwe, Botswana, Namibia, remember that you represent South Africa, you represent the new South Africa, you are our ambassadors. I was quite taken aback by this mandate and this demand of President Mandela on the business community. And that's when I realized what he was saying. Regional cooperation, regional economic cooperation, and indeed integration is not an event. It's not a bunch of economic opportunities in which, oh, here is a port, can we get together and invest? Or here's a rail line, can we get together and invest? It's really an investment in understanding each other, in respecting each other, and in finding ways to cooperate. So it's a process, and it's a deeply political, social process. Minister Smriti Irani said that we try to look at our identity as civilizations. Absolutely. If you enter the game as one of understanding each other and each other's history, culture, people, it changes completely the nature of engagement. When a private business house goes across the border and works in another country, and if in that country people kind of say, did they invest in our capacity? Did they actually invest and let our small businesses grow? Or did they just come to do business and take the surplus? And I make this point because I think that today in South Asia, the process of engagement is not where it should be. So no matter what the economic opportunities we have, if the process of engagement at all levels of society, if it's not one where we treat each other as equals, where we respect each other's identity, and where we have a mindset where we are looking for integration and cooperation, it's not going to happen because one or two opportunities and what you said, Indrani, because I think this is very, very important. That's my first point. My second point is, why is it that we are interested in regional cooperation? I think first it's to recognize that we live in a world of shared sovereignty. By shared sovereignty, I mean what I do affects you, and therefore we have to collaborate. Today, how we deal with zoonotic diseases in one country affects another country, and COVID-19 is a proof of that. And that's not the only place. Climate change. When India invests in solar energy, it makes a big difference for the world, and it makes a big difference for the region. Climate change is another reason why we have to connect with each other. So the whole notion of shared sovereignty is extremely important. Let me also say shared sovereignty has very difficult concepts. When we in Bangladesh inherit the faults of another society in terms of Rohingya refugees that we have to take care of, there is shared sovereignty. Decisions made in Myanmar affect us. And unless we have cooperation, we're not going to be able to deal with this. And so the political angle of shared sovereignty is very important for the economic angle. The other reason why we worry about economic opportunities in region is 1 + 1 = 3. It is the scale impact of cooperation. Whenever we engage in regional cooperation, the impact is very huge in economics terms, in jobs, in terms of economic growth. So it's very, very important to remind ourselves why we're in this game. Now, let me quickly talk about what I see as some of the opportunities. And here I have to literally, I think, steal some of Indrani's points. I think the first opportunity that we have is to create a power pool in the eastern side of South Asia. If you take Nepal, Bhutan, India, Bangladesh, Myanmar, right there, you have the ability to create a power pool. Africa, several regions of Africa has power pool. And in a power pool, who sells and who buys in a constant exchange of energy doesn't matter. Sometimes Bangladesh will be an exporter of energy because of season and timing. Other times it'll be an importer. Today, India sells electricity to Bangladesh. Has been a big boost for Bangladesh. But imagine tapping into the renewable energy space, hydro of Bhutan, of Nepal, and solar grid of India into a power pool, which is governed as a regional, sub-regional entity. It's a game changer. Can we achieve that? I think that's a very, very important low-hanging fruit for us to have. And here, by power pool, I do not mean Nepal selling to India and then India selling to Bangladesh. It actually literally means a pool where no one knows who's selling and who's buying, as long as it is giving energy governance process. I think the second area is waterways. You know, our colonial masters understood this very well. They actually invested in the waterways of the eastern side, and they were able to use the waterways to extract. It was one of the most powerful mechanisms of extracting surplus. We have to flip it around and invest in waterways for the development of the sub-region. Bangladesh, India, these two, and the investments we're doing in making navigable waterways, you can begin to look at and think through the movement of freight on waterways. It has a huge impact on climate change, huge impact on jobs creation, and actually has a huge impact overall in that 1 + 1 = 3 story that I was talking about. And then if you look at the last mile road connection to Nepal, then the waterways and that road is a big story. Previously, there used to be water connections with Bhutan. Can those be revived? We're talking about a potential, huge potential of growth. Indrani, can you still hear me?
We can hear you. Please go ahead.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So the Prime Minister of India and the Prime Minister of Bangladesh have signed an MOU on waterways. We have to invest here. I'm really proud that a Bangladeshi company, actually a private company, now manages several small private jetties along the river all the way up to Nepal. That's an incredible story. That's a story we need to showcase to show what kind of an opportunity this creates. And I think that it's extremely important to remember that the Bengal presidency that East India Company exploited was because of that richness of this region. This region, investing in waterways across the countries, can completely revive that economic growth system. A third area is shared environmental assets. Of course, we have the Sundarbans. How India and Bangladesh manage the Sundarbans will have a huge impact, not only on economic growth, but also as we take on future cyclones and typhoons. That mangrove is a natural barrier, but it requires both sides to actually invest in it. Now, I spoke of waterways, but the real story is, of course, water sharing. And how do we do water sharing? And this now, I think, is something, again, where politics and economics needs to be brought together. The water sharing process of both sides is going to completely reopen the economic opportunities. And then there are the trade facilities, logistics. That too is a major area. Now, these are just a smattering of examples, but these are examples on the eastern side that can completely redefine, 1/3 of humanity, if you will. And I've not even spoken about how Northeast can connect into the ports of Bangladesh and how you can have ports being shared between India and Bangladesh. Completely reshapes economic imagination. I guess the real question that I would ask is, if for all of this to happen, what is the way forward? I think there are 3 or 4 principles that I think are very important. First, think sub-regional. If we think region as all the South Asian countries and that we have to move together in one go, it's not going to happen. And that has been the Achilles heel of SAARC. I think that if we can have sub-regional cooperation, then you'll find the cooperation between India and Sri Lanka, between India, Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan. Then on the Western side, you have the whole trade in electricity all the way from Afghanistan onwards. If you think sub-regional, you'll find different types of solutions in imagining. That's first. Second is think federalism. My perspective is that the future of sub-regional impact depends on whether Kolkata talks to Guwahati, talks to Dhaka, much more than whether Dhaka talks to Delhi. I'm making an exaggeration. No subnational will talk to anyone outside without national consent. But what I'm saying is that the trade between Guwahati, Kolkata, and Dhaka, and that alignment is extremely important. So as India invests in its federalism, that will open up regionalism, I think, in a very powerful way. And the third area that I would say in terms of way forward is think multilateralism. Two points here. One is multilateral institutions like the Asian Development Bank and the World Bank have mechanisms which can invest in how India can engage Bangladesh, Maldives, Nepal. For example, in vaccine, we have regional IDA, which is IDA that is available beyond the national IDA and can be used for regional use. So multilateralism and using multilateral institution to promote subnational, sub-regional and regional is another approach. If I conclude, I have to, and it's impossible for a Bangladeshi not to conclude without thinking about poetry and music. I have to say that growing up in Bangladesh, we have learned songs about rivers constantly. But the songs are very interesting because they ask rivers their views. So you have a song by Hemanto, which is asking the river, do you not have any home? Why is it that you meander endlessly? Where is your home? And it's a very interesting question. Then Bhupen Hazarika's question to the river is, do you not feel shameful that all around you there is such pain in humanity and you just flow peacefully? I think if the river could ask us a question and tell us in response, I think the river would say, my dear friends, I'm the only one who connects you. You have drawn borders across time that have divided us, but it is I who connect you. Ladies and gentlemen, if we can flow with the rivers, we will find that our regional cooperation will go to another level. Thank you very much, Indrani and colleagues.
Thank you, Junaid. That really did set the tone for the discussion today. May I now call upon Sheikh Fazli Fahim, the President of FBCCI Bangladesh and the MD of Obsidian Bangladesh, to talk about regional economic cooperation from the perspective of Bangladesh. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Indrani Bhakti, Diplomatic Editor at the Times of India. Her Excellency Ms. Srimati Rani, Honorable Union Cabinet Minister for Textile, Women and Child Development, Government of India. Dr. Sangeeta Reddy, President FICCI. Dilip Chinoy, Mr. Secretary General of FICCI. Mr. Junaid Ahmed, Ambassador Sanjay Sudhir, Ms. Bhavani Rana, President FNCCI. Mr. Ismail Ghazanfar, Chairman, Federation of Afghan Chambers. Mr. Nishal Ferdinando, CEO, JAT Holdings, Sri Lanka. Ms. Sushma Nair, Director, South Asia and Multilaterals, FICCI. Esteemed speakers, guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon. It is my privilege to join the Leeds 2020 session on South Asia, Reimagining Neighborhood Economic Integration. On behalf of FBCCI, we thank our esteemed strategic partner, FICCI, for this initiative. Since COVID, we have been focusing on bilateral, regional, and global value chain initiatives, which we have shared with your High Commission India here and our other SAARC nation representatives in Dhaka. FBCCI is Bangladesh's exclusive umbrella trade organization with 500 plus member trade bodies from MSMEs to largest sector. Our members are city chambers, sectoral associations, bilateral chambers, women chambers, domestic and international corporate members, and associate members. We represent all across our economic spectrum of agriculture, service, manufacturing, and quaternary economy of our country. During COVID, in addition, we have been engaged with our 130 strategic global partners, including FICCI, CWIC, Commonwealth, CCPIT, SRCIC, ICC, CASI, etc. Esteemed President, this year marks the 100th birth centenary of our father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. As you are all aware, from 1947 till 1971, through democratic movements of milestones such as 1952 language movement, 1956, 1962, 64, 66, 1969, and election of 1970, our father of the nation got a mandate of 98% absolute majority in parliament in East Pakistan. Nevertheless, it was preceded by 1971 War of Independence, where we emerged as an independent nation. During this long time, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman laid the foundation of our long-proven humane relations with India, Bhutan, Nepal, South Asian other countries, Russia, Germany, and 150 nations. We are indebted to all the people and the government during that period that led to our independence. We are especially indebted to the people of India through their parliamentary mandate to the then parliament for hosting 10 million Bangladeshis during the War of Independence in 1971. I cannot emphasize enough on our inseparable heritage and humane ties in our hearts and minds. Since 2008, we are experiencing shining examples of positive trend for greater engagements and cooperations in culture, trade, investment, and sports. Irrespective of that, acknowledging challenges, our leadership shared values for the constituent sustainable growth is a reflection of our relationship today. During COVID-19, we saw our South Asian leaderships coming together virtually with conviction for humanity beyond borders in South Asia and beyond. We are in talk with strategic partnership in vaccines for COVID-19 as well. As a strategic partner and major FDI investor, India has been financing many of our development projects in power, railway, road transport, health, technical education, in addition to investments in textiles, banking, and telecommunication. Our bilateral trade stands at 10 billion today. India designated economic zones in Bangladesh have enabled prospects for more strategic investments, which awaits execution. We welcome other nations in South Asia to explore our country designated economic zones. In our SAARC platform, we have placed the prospect of a SAARC economic zone to maximize on SAFTA value chain within us and beyond. We may explore trade recovery through regional value chain initiatives with raw materials from our neighbors for our domestic industry, while maximizing Bangladesh's production competitive edge, export to regional market of 1.8 billion and beyond. Maximizing our regional value chains with global implication based on shared resources and knowledge. In the next normal, cooperation between us are not limited to bilateral or regional only, but globally and beyond. Bangladesh's position in regional cooperation can serve as a conduit between East Asia, Southeast Asia, South Asia, and the global market. Esteemed guests, since 2008, Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's Vision 2021 and 2041, Digital Bangladesh, and Delta Plan 2100 were to transform Bangladesh to a middle income, to develop digital Bangladesh, and address issues to mitigate challenges of global warming. In that regard, we have invested 70 billion plus to update our industrial ecosystem, evident in infrastructure, 100 economic zones, high-tech parks, multimodal connectivity, trade logistics by air, roads, rail, and waterways. Recently, during the month of Ramadan, Indian Rail brought in onion, as the esteemed moderator was earlier mentioning about. That has helped us to maintain our commodity market during the month of Ramadan. Moreover, tariff and non-tariff facilities policy frameworks for ease of doing business are underway to maximize production, competitive edge of Bangladesh. Our 160 million vibrant domestic market, 1.8 billion South Asian regional market, PFQF to EU, India, China, Canada, Australia, APTA privileges, and others similar are complementary prospects with shared value chain initiative. From 2018 till pre-COVID-19, Bangladesh's GDP grew 400%. Our trade grew 240%. We have reached 100% electricity coverage of our population by the end of this year, as a homage to Mujib 100, centenary of our father of the nation's birth. Our poverty was reduced from 46% to 21%. There are 120 social safety net programs underway, which are all shining examples of humane growth of Bangladesh, a globally best kept secret according to Standard Charter. From an investment perspective, most of the multinational companies, Bangladesh is one of their top 5 performing destinations, best in most cases. Comparing with compliant markets ROI, our return on investment makes us an attractive destination with IP protection in place for technology and knowledge transfer. South Asian investors with technology and knowledge transfer with global export footprints have the opportunity of Bangladesh's production competitive edge and incentives to diversify industries and market base till 2027 as extended privileges after LDC graduation in 2024. In response to COVID-19, Government of Bangladesh's key economic interventions prioritize government expenditure for money circulation, improving banking sector liquidity, social safety net programs with food aid to 45 million people, cash transfer to 5 million families, where Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's comprehensive financial stimulus packages of 12.1 billion, which is 3.7% of our GDP. It was targeted to support enterprises across all spectrums, such as exports, agriculture, informal sectors, MSMEs, including grants for marginalized communities. Complementary to our government's response during COVID-19, FBCCI exhaustive engagements were in non-fiscal and fiscal policy support for enterprises, MSMEs to the largest, tariff and tax intervention in national budget, and our continuous engagements are underway with leaderships for stakeholder sustainability for this year and recovery in the next two. Furthermore, several social and philanthropic initiatives such as food programs, contribution to the government relief fund, PPE, mask, shields, sanitization of hotspot cities around the country to aid the frontliners and communities in 64 districts throughout the country were undertaken. In addition, we extended goodwill gestures to multiple governments from FBCCI as private sector gestures supplementing government initiatives. Esteemed presence, as we navigate the next normal, we are confident in our economy as it is demonstrating strong recovery trend with GDP growth of 5.24%, remittance growth of 5.4%, and foreign reserve growth of 10% in fiscal year 19-20. From July to September this year, our export reached over 10 billion, remittance about 7 billion, and foreign reserve 40 billion plus. Aligned with Bangladesh's development trajectory, the present FBCCI board launched FBCCI 2041, an Impact 4.0 initiative in June 2019 to form global knowledge partnership for commercial or alternative dispute resolution within 3 months, applied research, trade facilitation, scientific-based policy advocacy, technology transfer, startup ecosystem, innovation, venture capital investment in startups, business process re-engineering based on curriculum of 4th IR and STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics, with globally top-rated institutes, universities, think tanks, including domestic knowledge partners, bridging the industry-academia gap, re-engineering process, business process to be part of global value chain with priority to our MSMEs post-LDC and towards SDG 2030. I'm sorry, I'm coming to a close. Some of these initiatives are FBCCI's Economic Applied Policy Research Center, FBCCI Alternative Dispute Resolution Center, FBCCI TechC, FBCCI Institute, and FBCCI University. We welcome our neighborhood's institutional partnership in FBCCI Impact 4.0 initiatives. In closing, we look forward to our future engagements, maximizing our regional knowledge and resources towards complementary cooperation in trade, investment, culture, sports. Best wishes to you all, and thank you for having FBCCI here today.
Thank you, Mr. Fahim. I am sorry I had to cut you off at the long list of speakers. I now invite Ms. Bhavani Rana from FNCCI to make her remarks. It would be grateful if you could keep it to between 6 and 7 minutes. Thank you so much. Welcome.
Thank you. Namaste. The chair of this program, Dr. Sangeeta Reddy, she's the president of FICCI India. Honorable Chief Guest, Srimati Irani of Union Cabinet Minister of India, all the esteemed speakers, distinguished guests. First of all, let me congratulate FICCI for organizing such an important event, and I feel great to be part of this event also. I think it's a very good initiative which FICCI has taken for 4 days global leadership initiative, like including 5 ideas like leadership of global prosperity, excellency, adaptability, diversity, and sustainability to share views on 21st century challenges and opportunities for global business and value chains. Talking about South Asia, although South Asia is one of the least integrated region of the world, but it's a most emerging opportunities now, then the region can grow into a very powerful economic hub We feel that if we reimagine, reinvent, and leverage our comparative and competitive advantage like human capital, rich resources, innovative culture, strength in manufacturing and services. But for all these, we need to have collective leadership across all the regions, reinforcing existing South Asian value chains and creating fresh value chain across our nations. We do have lack of physical and digital connectivity, and because of that, we do face problems like cross-border trade facilitation, poor infrastructure, regulatory, and also regional agreements, and proper implementation of such agreements, such as like SAFTA, is also not fully implemented. So because of all these issues, it's hampering the regional integration. Talking about post-COVID geoeconomic scenario, I think not only South Asia, the whole world is facing this, but due to this adverse effect of COVID-19, it has estimated that global flow of FDI is expected to contract by 40% in 2020. So many global corporations and companies are thinking of diversifying their production network, supply chains, investment into more other countries and the regions also. Every challenge has opportunities. So same way, I think it is a matter of how you perceive things. So having readiness, resilience, adaptability, fueling national willpower projected in political as well as business leadership, strategic partnership, competitive advantages, and so on, the nations and region could turn these challenges into opportunities. We still feel and regard that South Asia is one of the major regions that can bounce back with resilience to thrive the post-COVID-19 world in order. So I think South Asia can be one of the very strong supply chain hub in a global scenario. South Asia is an ideal position to attract diversification of investment and supply chains and become world supply chain hub also. Such diversification certainly would open up new opportunities for the least developed country and also developing nations also, as we are endowed with competitive advantages such as demographic divideness of young and vibrant workforce, geographical proximity with economic centers of the world, namely ASEAN plus China, Europe, beyond, with the America. Because South Asia, I feel that we have market also, we have consumer also, and we have a very strong workforce. So I think this is the right time to, because even the world is getting, economy is going to get South Asia centric. So this is the right time, because I think when we talk about South Asia, like we used to have, I'm talking about Bangladesh, Nepal, India, and Bhutan. So which is like the neighboring country of Nepal. So what we see is even the economic distribution gap is reducing, it's decreasing, like in Nepal also and other countries, neighboring countries. And then we can really be the hub of the manufacturing also and trade hub also. And we have an integrated economy also. So because of that, I think we can really become a supply and manufacturing hub, the South Asia. But when we talk about connectivity issues and competitive advantage, in order to tap the regional competitiveness and comparative advantage in industry, as well as becoming world supply hub, we must build greater connectivity by building physical and digital infrastructure for the connectivity. Without developing logistic infrastructure in South Asia, we cannot think of reaping benefit from the competitive advantage and becoming supply chain hub. Because I think we really need to talk about, like Dr. Ahmed mentioned, that we need to talk about connectivity, roadways, railways, airports, waterways is one of the very emerging, I think, connectivity, which Nepal is also, our Prime Minister is very keen to open this waterways connectivity with India also. So like we can talk about Asian highways, which can join Thailand and Myanmar and then pass through South Asia, which is the major portion. I think it goes through India. Same way, like so that we can join the Central Asia. So it seemed very exciting, the Asian connectivity based on Belt and Road Initiative also that passes through China. So I think we need to really work on the connectivity and infrastructure. Another area like maybe India can also play a very important role in this, because since geographically also India is center of South Asian connectivity. So it plays a major role to play to facilitate this connectivity by building road, railway, dry ports for connectivity, and seaports for the sea routes and so on. Air connectivity through building of airports for infrastructure travel is need for today. So this demand with significant investment for construction and regulatories and policy harmonization among us. But we must start by whatever infrastructure we have. If already we have, we can still build, and step by step we can go forward. Human capital is another very strong, I think, sector. What resources we have in South Asia, especially Bangladesh, Nepal, and India. So South Asia has not been able to really develop our human capital in planned and strategic way. So in order to capitalize the valuable advantage also, so we really need to focus in joint collaboration, joint cooperative on human resource requirement in future also. So I think we need to really develop and really give skill, especially in the field of science, technology, engineering, mathematics, in addition to other areas of managerial and entrepreneurs experts also, because I think we have a green economy. When we talk about other Asian countries and all, they have gray economy. So the human capital, human resources, we should turn into human capital also. So when we talk about way forward neighborhood first, I think South Asia must learn to pragmatic its approach. That is, despite geographical frictions and some kind of hiccups and all, economic relations should not suffer, because I think we should use a platform like SAARC, we should use the platform like BIMSTEC, ARA, BBIN to strengthen the economic ties. That's what FNCCI is also doing. The neighboring policy, which was adopted by India, needs to be welcoming, translated into the shared prosperity with harmonious relationship among the neighboring nation. So in order to develop collective leadership and bring positive contribution to the regional sustainable economic development, peace and stability, we need more effective and regular dialogues like this, what we are having today among various professional, influential peoples of the nations, not only among politicians, political leaders, but also in order to materialize shared prosperity and win-win situation. I think we need to have these kind of dialogues with all people from different sectors and all. And it's very important to like a forum, like regional forum, which is like SAARC, BIMSTEC, which I have already mentioned. And I think we need to work in a sub-regional way also, like Dr. Ahmed mentioned. So I feel that cross-border work also we should do. Like Nepal is really keen working with UP, Bihar, our border, the Indian border towns, cities and all, because I think we can integrate our trade also, tourism also together, like having a joint tourism circuit, having religious circuit also, Buddhism circuit, Hinduism circuit and all. I think your Prime Minister, Honorable Narendra Modi, and our Prime Minister, Right Honorable KP Sharma Oli, is always talking about the connectivity, that also regional connectivity, Ramayana circuit, Buddhism circuit, and other things. So I think working sub-regionally and cross-border cities also is very important these days, so we can have a cross-border tourism also, trade also. So I think these are the things which, if we could work collectively, then we can achieve a lot, because we have a lot of comparative advantage, human resource, natural resources we have agro sector, we have tourism sector. So I think we need to integrate all these sectors and jointly work together, maybe create a brand also, and then we can we can have a production unit, specific production unit also, because when you see past, in history, the Britishers and European and Americans, they used to import wood from Africa and cotton from India. If we can have a very specific product also in each country, then we can create a brand also. So I think this way we can collectively work, and really we should grab this opportunity after the COVID also. And talking about FNCCI, we are working very closely with, of course, the Nepalese government, and especially during the COVID time also, to revive and to sustain our economy. We had series of meetings with the ministers and the Prime Minister also. So we also discussed when the fiscal policy was coming, monetary policy was coming. So we have a very good monetary policy also, which really support to our economy to survive. Even though Nepal has a very small economy, but still we don't, our economic indicators doesn't show negative, anything negative. So still we say that we have in Nepal also, we have a lot of opportunities where people could come and invest. We could get FDI from not only South Asia, from other Europe and China and America also. And FNCCI is also very much like working with government, especially like policy lobbying and all. So government of Nepal is very, we have a 2/3 majority of government now, and our political stability is there. So the main object and the main mission of the our government is prosperous Nepal. And then they are trying to create opportunities. They're trying to review and then changing most of the policies like foreign direct foreign policy, investment policy, public-private partnership policies, and we have created one window system like investment board. So you don't have to go to different ministries and all. From one place, your investment, if you want to invest, it'll really simplify the process also. And repatriation also, it's very easy. You could take 100% profit back to your country. So these are the areas where Nepalese government is working to attract the FDI. And also they've opened up with a big infrastructure areas like roadways, railways, tunnel, airports, regional airports, national airports, and also like waterways and all. So I think this is the time that, I mean, we could work together jointly and explore the opportunity of each other's country, what we have. FNCCI has been also working very closely with FICCI also, even with CII, to foster economic and business to business relation between Nepal and India. FNCCI has been working very closely with the Indian Embassy of Nepal also, and we have been organizing many important events like to promote trade, to promote tourism, investment between two nations. And I think, let me conclude now by saying in this very volatile, uncertain, complex and ambiguous time, the South Asian nation must more than ever reimagine and materialize our regional socio-economic integration and value chains with collective leadership for shared prosperity through resilience, adaptability, inclusive, sustainable growth. So once again, on behalf of Federation of Nepalese Chamber of Commerce and Industry, I would like to wish the organizers, especially FICCI and the participants of this event, for the great success and fruitful event. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Rana. I'd like to now invite Mr. Masood Parwanfar from Afghanistan to make his remarks. Afghanistan, of course, is in many ways the youngest nation here. And we'd like you to also look at or give us an idea of how the region can support Afghanistan's prosperity and economic growth. So thank you very much, and please make your remarks.
Very much. My sincere apologies for having a very weak net connection. Might be it not work fully. Excellencies, distinguished participants and industry leaders, good afternoon to all of you. First of all, let me thank FICCI and other partners for initiating and hosting this crucial debate in such a critical time. And I'm grateful to have this opportunity to share my perspective and thought and speak about regional economic integration on behalf of Afghanistan Chambers Federations. As we all know, the devastating outbreak of COVID-19 had fatal blow on the economy of across the world, leading and production line of the nearly zero, hammered and the transportation channel, disturbed the demand and supply chain, and almost closed down all the world economy. As the landlocked country, Afghanistan also faced huge economic problem due to cramping lockdown imposed by world economic, particularly neighboring countries, commercial route with our biggest business partner, including China, Pakistan, Iran, and India. And same to the Central Asian countries, were closed down, aimed at cramping and future and straight COVID-19, which lead to the sudden speed of price of all imports material, including food commodities, due to has the dependency on the transit land route of the neighboring countries. Afghanistan export have incurred having loss in many instances, particularly while exporting through Pakistan soil. Having a strategic geopolitical location, Afghanistan has always endorsed effort toward regional regional connectivity and deep economic integration in Asia. Afghanistan government has firmly pledged in commitment to implemented mega regional projects such as TOPI, CASA 1000, and among South Asian countries very far less than actual potential. Lack of transportation, infrastructure problem, and banking transaction through visa regime, and lack of understanding each other potential and opportunities are core reason behind the day-to-day demolishing trade. Sorry, do you have my voice?
We have your voice. Please go ahead.
Okay. So lack of transportation infrastructure problem, banking transaction, tough visa regime, and lack of understanding each other potential and opportunities are the core reason behind the day-to-day diminishing trade among South Asian countries. However, South Asian countries have already reached a milestone to having a common visa sticker, SORC sticker, aimed at facilitating commercial activities among number of the countries, but it has been observed that the sticker is being used more for political purposes than rather than for businesses. We believe that the private sector of each country should pursue and influence their representative government to limit the issue of the SORC sticker, SORC visa sticker to the businesses only. Non-tariff barriers and even more dominated through South Asian regime challenges and intra-regional trade among the neighboring countries. For instance, we have had many instances where Pakistan closed down a main trade route with Afghanistan without any prior notification and specific justification, cause Afghanistan trader to incur heavy loss. The RICO Chamber of Commerce and Industries, inaugurated in July 2019, is another important platform which can enhance regional trade. We urge all South Asian countries to become member of RICO Chamber for further deepen and regional integrity among the neighboring countries. The Air Corridor program, launched and subsidized by Afghan government, have connected the Afghanistan exporter with South and Central European countries. Since the launch of the program in mid-June 2017, around 16,000 tons of Afghan export items, including fresh and dry fruits, saffron, carpet, medical herbs, and carpet valued at more than 350 million, were exported mostly to India through air corridor. The Iranian port of Chabahar, which is expected to be fully functional very soon, which will unfold a new route of facilities trade and window to the hope for increasing regional connectivity. As a regional hub, Afghanistan is connecting South Asian with the Central Asian to play its role more effectively. It is required that regional countries most actively engage in all regional initiatives and pursue the implementation of regional agreements for realizing Afghanistan's full potential and regional hub, attracting foreign direct investment in Afghanistan, infrastructure with our bases and connectivity holding permanent importance. The Afghan government has carried out extensive reforms in terms of business facilitation, reducing the business license, obtaining time from 25 days to 1 day at cost of 100 halves. The country has listed among top 10 improvers of business climate in 2019 by doing business indicators advancing to 167 place in the global ease of doing business ranking. With easy access to the land and cheap labor, Afghanistan is an ideal place for regional companies to establish their production lines within Afghanistan and start their export at lower cost, as Afghanistan is being offered duty-free tariff preference and exemption by its neighboring countries. Now that we are closing to the peace than ever before, Afghanistan has a land of rising opportunities, offer upstand businesses, investment opportunities in a variety of sectors, including infrastructure, pharma and healthcare, transportation and connectivity, industrial production and mining. In post-peace statement here, the Afghan private sector community is looking forward to have a collaboration with the regional and international players to encourage them to invest in Afghanistan in forms of FDI joint venture, partnership and trade representations. As a conclusion, I would like to assert that regional integration require coordination efforts initiated by regional leaders, private sector, government, and influential figures, while focusing on the strengthening of the existing regional platforms. South Asian requires to concentrate on convening the new intra-regional frameworks to enable profound decisions on major policy issues to ensure private sector-oriented policy formulation. It is essential for the government to ensure the private sector in a state of during policies decision and abstains from forming rule and regulation that would discourage trade among neighboring countries. Business encouraged to the private sector must be kept apart from hostile political relations among neighboring countries. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and I wish a very successful session to the panel.
Thank you, Mr. Paranfar. May I call upon our last speaker for this afternoon, Mr. Nishal Ferdinando from the JAT Holdings in Sri Lanka. Mr. Ferdinando, thank you for being with us, and may we have your perspective from Sri Lanka, please.
Honorable Minister, President Fiki, fellow panelists, and all participants, good evening. Leads 2020, Reimagining the World, I would say, is a very appropriate theme. And the South Asian perspective of this is even more appropriate at the moment. I would like to reimagine the South Asian region as one that has no cap, bottomless, and with limitless possibilities, where every limitation is an opportunity. South Asian region boasts of close to 2 billion population, which is about 26% of the world's population. Is this our biggest limitation or our greatest opportunity? We are the home to the largest Buddhist population, Hindu population. We have a substantial Muslim population and a decent Christian population. The diversity, once again, is it a limitation or is it an opportunity? We have within these 7 to 8 countries in the SAARC region, only 5% of intra-trade. Once again, I see a huge opportunity in this to grow this into, that means a possibility to grow this into at least 2 to 3 folds of 5%, right? And we are the largest region that accounts for brain drain in the world. Once again, can we convert this limitation into an opportunity? I represent Jet Holdings, which is the largest distributor in the world for Ceolec wood coatings. I would say that we itself are an example of how we became the largest in the world in the perspective of South Asia. Sri Lanka is a country with 20 million population, and we have beaten countries like Russia, Italy, who have much bigger population than Sri Lanka, maybe even about 4 times or 5 times of Sri Lanka, by only concentrating on South Asia and reaching out to the region. We have established in Bangladesh, India, Maldives, and Pakistan. And that population itself has become a strength for a country in Sri Lanka to be the leader in the world in wood coatings. So this itself we can translate to economic integration in the neighborhood. And if you look at industries, I was formerly in the construction industry. Jet Holdings is also into projects and into furnishing and finishing projects where we need a lot of manpower. Why can't we tap into the 2 billion population, right, in this region and take advantage of the biggest resource that we have at the moment in South Asia? It is not only necessary to tap into this, we need economic integration to make this possible. We need to have better commute systems between these countries. For example, airports should be in every main city in these countries, and also there should be direct flights. Because if you have to spend about 5 to 6 hours in transit to reach these countries itself, it doesn't serve the purpose of trying to tap into this 2 billion population. In any industry, be it IT, agriculture, manufacturing, human resource is the main resource that is scarce at the moment. But we in South Asia, we have the biggest resource. When you talk about ease of commuting, I would say the SAARC visa, things like the SAARC visa, having separate counters for the SAARC visa, maybe sort of digitalizing the SAARC visa, or even visa on arrival. These are small things that as a region we can do so that we can get labor and the mobility of labor can increase. Even having a common labor regulation, or even say personal tax sort of things when you earn, whether there is any sort of tax sort of reliefs that you can take between the countries, or even maybe ease of transferring money if you earn in the South Asian region. These are things that we can look as a region to increase the workforce and the fluidity of the workforce in these countries. The next thing is this 5% of the intra-trade. What I would say is ease of doing business and the sophistication of business has to improve in these countries. Jet Holdings, as a Sri Lankan company who is in India, in Bangladesh, we have sometimes we after being in these countries for about 10 to 15 years, sometimes we experience certain issues. For example, in Bangladesh, after about 10 years, we are experiencing a problem with the customs. There is a LC in Pakistan where the bank is not sort of honoring it at the moment. If we have a common body, we can go to that body as a business entity, we can go and that common body can sort of sort these issues out. The same way we are having that problem, there might be a lot of other companies in the region who is having the same issue in the other countries. So I think if there is a common body where we focus to sort of increase the ease of business and lessen the sophistication, that can be a great asset in the terms of economic integration in this neighborhood. The next one is, if we don't have a proper system where we can sort of streamline and get the credit and risk sort of information of companies in the region. I think this is greatly important because once again, I'm speaking from the experience that I have while doing the business in these 7 countries. We have a claim in India with one company. Now, if we had this sort of the prior sort of knowledge, and if we had the access to information of credit and risk in one single database, this sort of thing can be avoided when we do business, right? The next thing I would say is in terms of logistics. I think everyone spoke about this. If we can have motor vehicle and railway agreements, if we can have sort of infrastructure between the countries, I mean, between Bhutan, India, Nepal, and Bangladesh, I mean, you can use the land itself to transport your goods, right? Between Sri Lanka, India, maybe Maldives, you can have certain bridges or certain ways that we can increase the sort of logistics and improve the logistics in this area, which will definitely increase the ease of doing business too. The exchange of currency is something that we should look in a macro level, because when we do business from Sri Lanka, we have to convert it to US dollars, and then we have to pay into Indian rupees or into any other currency in the region. Why can't we look at currency interchange between these countries in the SAARC region and come to a sort of agreement where we can directly change currency within this region? That is also something which we can look at in terms of increasing the percentage of intertrade in the region. Another aspect which I would like to touch upon is, being from Sri Lanka, tourism is close to my heart. And if we look at South Asian region itself as a tourist destination, from the beaches to the mountains to the forests to metropolitan cities to wildlife to ancient sites, we have so much to offer as a region. We have so much to offer individually as countries. We have so much similarities, but we have so much uniqueness at the same time. This itself, we can market religion, tourism that is centered across religions like Buddhism and Hinduism, where you can have tourism linked to these religions. So that there is so much of potential that we as a region together can offer as a tourist destination. I think we need to tap into all of this. Further, what we need to look at is, if we want to get this right, and if we want to sort of as a region come together and face all of these issues together, we need authentic leadership. We need authentic leaderships from our business leaders. We need authentic leadership from the politicians. We need authentic leadership in the institutions, in the chambers, across the region. We need authentic leadership to drive this. My fourth and final point is the brain drain. If you look at the brain drain, there are so many people who have gone to developed countries who, if we get our fundamentals right, we can get them back. That way we can experience the best of both worlds. There are how many Indian CEOs at the moment in Fortune 500 companies in USA, right? So we can tap into that knowledge. If we actually, again, South Asia is the youngest in terms of age in the Asian region, with a median age of only 27. If we can educate people, come together and even form educational institutes, universities as a region, we can sort of stop the brain drain. If we stop the brain drain, and not only stop the brain drain, get the people who from this region who have moved out into these countries, we have the human resource, we have the know-how, we have the expertise to make South Asia an extremely powerful and an efficient region in the world. And I think the initiatives taken, like what FICCI has done at the moment, these are sort of the initiatives that can bring these economies together, that we can think together. And we also, I think India has to play a key role, because India is the big brother in this entire sort of the countries, and have to take that leadership. And neighbors coming first sort of policy is the correct policy to follow at the moment. And we also, Sri Lanka is a small country, a smaller economy, but we can support. There are things that we can offer to boost this region together while India takes the leadership, and we all can move together to make South Asia, I would say, a predominant force in the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ferdinando. Very interesting suggestions, all of them. I'd like to open up for discussions, but using my privilege as the moderator, let me pose the first question to all of you speakers, which is that in a post-COVID world, and we are still in the middle of the pandemic, and despite the limitations, despite the shortcomings of our various societies, in many ways we have been quite proactive in all the countries of this region have been quite proactive in dealing with the challenges posed by COVID. But beyond, there will be a world beyond COVID, and there will be a new normal, in a sense that the normal that we will experience is nothing like what we have been used to, and the pandemic itself has taught us lessons which we will have to implement, execute as the days come. One of the first is, and I think some of you mentioned it, which is the resilience of supply chains, resilience of resources, resilience of supplies. And I come to this because we appear to be moving to a world where countries and societies are looking for trusted suppliers, trusted partners. And in this respect, South Asia offers an immense possibility for countries which have complementarities that may not have been used up yet. But in a post-pandemic world, I would like you to put on your thinking hats and maybe give us a sense of how you think we can put this resilience, the concept of resilience together. May I call upon Junaid, if you're still there, to see if we can take this forward to answer this particular question of the world beyond the pandemic.
It's a tough question you ask, Indrani. It's a tough question because I think that we're going to have to discover our way forward. And I would put it in two buckets. One bucket is all of our countries in South Asia have to improve certain basic systems of service delivery. Number one, we have to come up with a different type of social protection system that protects informal workers, urban workers, that enables social protection to be portable by migrants. And that's going to be a very, very important way of protecting our labor force vis-a-vis future shocks. Second is we're going to have to invest in rethinking our cities. Too much time has been spent on thinking about the sovereign and the sub-sovereign at a state level. The third tier, where the citizens and the state meet, have to be re-identified. So the fact is that mayors of Dhaka, mayors of Delhi, mayors of Mumbai, mayors of Karachi, mayors of Kathmandu are not the big figures that drive change, has to be thought. I think the first bucket, therefore, is about some of the basic systems of institution inside our countries. Second, I think the next bucket is how we talk across countries. If you buy what I said, that we live in a world of shared sovereignty, we have to come up with organizational systems that enable the political systems to talk across boundaries about taking common decisions. So to me, those would be two very, very vital buckets to work on. Improving our systems of delivery to build our resilience, and second, building political systems of dialogue that can take the storyline across boundaries.
Thank you. Thank you, Junaid. Very good suggestions on all. My next question would be on healthcare, and one of the things that we have learned again as a result of COVID is I would describe healthcare as a strategic asset in a post-COVID world. And in South Asia, I think Sanjay Sudhir spoke about Indian hospital chains moving to Maldives. I can see the possibility of communication or cooperation in healthcare systems, or maybe setting up healthcare sort of protocols that involve vaccination, immunization, vaccination, and bringing the private sectors. How, for anybody who would like to speak about this, how should we bring the private sector into these sectors, which have traditionally been handled by governments, but it needs that private sector push if we have to scale up in terms of healthcare access to all. Nishal, would you like to take this question, or Dr. Reddy, would you like to talk about this?
Sure, I can share my experience here in Sri Lanka. So I would say one thing that we realized with the COVID pandemic is that South Asians are resilient by nature. Because if you even look at the statistics, if you even look at how many get COVID or how many actually the seriousness of it. So we by nature, I think, should be proud of the fact that we are much more resilient than the rest of the world. That's the first point. My second point is, when Sri Lanka tackled it, initially it was the government and the forces and the government healthcare industry which actually came to the forefront and sort of started testing. Then we had quarantine centers. We even had tracing where we took people and we sort of, that entire initiative was actually done through the government. But then when we needed to scale it up, right, one thing that I think we did right was it was a gradual scale up, right? It was not that the private sector can entirely dive into it fully. So it was a gradual scale up of it, and the systems were sort of set into place where even the private hospitals had to go through the government legislation and the government bodies in handling the COVID situation. So even the testings initially for the first maybe 2 to 3 months, it was purely through the government hospitals. And now we have moved to the private hospitals where the flow and maybe the sequence of events has sort of set it up in a perfect way, where the scale up operation has actually been done successfully. So I think the same model we can take to our entire healthcare system, where the government takes the initiatives, the government invests in research, the government does all of the front end part of it and hands it over with proper quality checks to the private sector. And even if you take Sri Lanka, now we are having an initiative with the COVID situation, since due to the restrictions in imports, to manufacture our own medicine in-house, right? So I think this COVID thing and that in-house venture is sort of a private-public partnership. So I think in healthcare, this can be done properly, but the government needs to take that initiative, but it needs to empower the private sector as well for them, and it goes hand in hand, right? So I think that sort of model will work well in South Asia if it's adapted even in the healthcare sector.
Thank you, Nishal. And we are running out of time, and in fact, we have run out of time. But so I just, I would like to thank all of you because of the ideas that you have put forward, and it goes from everything from sharing of waterways to sharing of sovereignty, and these are areas which we need to look at with a fresh perspective as we emerge into a world where a lot of things will be so new that we have not actually experienced them before. The fact that in the private sector we can keep such an open mind and are so open to collaboration and cooperation, I think bodes well for this region. My only sense is that having covered this for so many years, the wish that I have is that we move from potential to reality. I'm hopeful that sometime next year around this time, when we review South Asian cooperation, we should have at least 4 success stories to tell each other. And on that note, may I hand you over to Sushma. Thank you all for being such a great panel.
Thank you, Ms. Bagchi. Thank you, and all speakers for a very interesting, enlightening discussion. There are some very tangible takeaways, as you mentioned, to move from potential to reality, and hope that this discussion was useful to everyone. A special thanks to all our institutional partners and diplomatic missions in South Asia and New Delhi for advising us, for bringing this excellent group of speakers together. Thank you, audience, for joining us. Please tune in for the next session on Latin America and Caribbean, where the theme is Reimagining Distances. This session has business leaders and ministerial participation to discuss how global disruptions have brought us an opportunity for India and LAC region to come closer. The session starts at 6:15 India time, 12:45 GMT, and the platform is FICCI Bike, Auditorium 1. Thank you, and see you at the next session.
Thank you, Sushma, and thank you, Indrani, and thank you all the speakers. Thank you.
Thank you,
Mr. Fahim. We look forward to doing more with you.